I'm fine, Gerald.
Joe Lewis. I'm Joe Lewis.
You're Joe Lewis. Okay.
Lewis.
Joe and Chad.
Joe and Chad.
Okay.
And then there's one other person. You want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm James Thomas. Nice to meet you.
All right. We got James, Joe, and Chad.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the
All
show.
right. Well, that's good. So here we are.
Yeah, I know.
Just the four of us.
Just the four of us. We're going to have a good time, sir. We've done this with a lot of people, but I can safely go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chad. And then
I was just gonna say, should I do?
Come on, guys. Go ahead.
Should we do an introduction first?
I'll be the host. I'll be the host, and you guys can tell me about your lives. Okay?
It's boring as fuck, dude.
Where are you guys calling from?
Kentucky.
I've been in Kentucky. I like
really?
it. Yeah.
Where at? We're in Lexington.
I think I've been through there once or twice over the years.
We all work at university jobs, so we all work in higher education.
So you work at the bookshop and stuff like that?
Kind of. I'm the director of academic advising. James?
I'm a professor of higher education.
And Chad?
Oh man, highfalutin titles.
Oh no, it doesn't mean anything.
I'm just an average Joe. Okay, I'm sitting out here in my lounge, looking at the pool and saying, "Hey, how are you?"
Well, we're excited about you at the pool. But Chad, you were going to say something, then we'll get started.
No, I was just going to say, should we do an introduction to who we're talking to today?
Please, Chad.
Okay.
Do we need to hit record?
No. Record that later and put it in later. Okay.
Okay, that works.
I don't want to be sitting here through an introduction. I know who I am.
Well, you know who you are. But this will be episode 136, 137. I'm not for sure yet. And can I tell you, and this is kind of kissing your ass and kind of not at the same time.
Here's the blowing the smoke right up my ass. Okay,
right
go ahead. Do it.
Right. Nobody has been on the show that has the filmography that you do. No one has been on the show that has the amount of movies under their belt that you do. No one.
I did quite a few, and I'm still working. If
I know.
Fucking goddamn coronavirus would disappear, I could get back to work. But you know how it is.
Oh,
I mean,
we know.
You have seriously made a movie from all the way from. You have not stopped making movies from 1986 to now. I mean, every year you're just.
And that's just as the director.
I think I made my first movie in 84.
Right.
Right.
And I made a film called The Lost Empire in 84. But I'd written some movies before that, like Screwballs and Sorceress and Forbidden World.
Right.
And you know, I worked my way up to action and cut.
We work really hard of trying not to ask the questions that everybody asks. But the one
if you do, I'll hang up. Okay.
I know. The one question I have, and this, because I often like to start at the beginning, but this isn't at the beginning. When it comes to pseudonyms, how do you pick which movie you're going to use a pseudonym for, and how do you pick which movie you're going to be Jim?
Oh, I've answered this a million times.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
In a couple of years there, I was making 6-7 films a year.
Right.
Okay. Right. Between writing and directing.
Yep.
And I couldn't put my name on everything.
Right.
So they asked me to come up with some alternative names when they went to the buyers with their films, the buyers wouldn't just say Jim Wynorski, Jim Wynorski, Jim Wynorski. So I came up with a couple of other pseudonyms that I used, and IMDb recognized them all, and I think there's still a few out there that the IMDb hasn't caught, and that's good.
Well, I'll tell you, the follow-up to this is something you probably haven't been asked before. James, go ahead.
I have to ask, because as a fan of the good, the bad, and the ugly, Art Stanton, is that one that you? Yeah, is that one? I used that a couple of times I think around the beginning of the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had that name removed from the two films I put them on. I put that title on. I had them removed and hadn't put my original name back after a while. And that was, I think I had Art Stanton on Sorority House Massacre 2 and Hard to Die. But I believe that name, my name has been restored to those films over the years.
Okay. So
because I like those movies.
Well, yeah, and we're huge fans of The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. So what we always experience is...
Well, who isn't? Come on, it's one of the best films ever made. Except I prefer For a Few Dollars More.
Do you really?
Yes. Of the three Eastwood Man with No Name films, For a Few Dollars More is at the top.
Why is
then
that?
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, then Fistful of Dollars.
Why is that, sir?
My personal preference.
Just a personal
I'd rather watch For a Few Dollars More than The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly if I had a choice.
Okay.
I like that film, probably because it's the first one I saw back in the day as a kid.
Right. So how did you end up? And I asked a lot, but I do want to start at the beginning a little bit. When did you make your journey to Hollywood, and what maybe were some of the movies that you just said, I have to go make movies, that made you want to go make movies?
I'll retrace the steps to New York in the 60s and 70s. I was growing up,
right,
and I was watching every horror movie you could make or watch. It was on TV, and I'd go out of my way, circle the titles in the TV guide, and watch them all because I loved them.
Right.
Okay, and my career was going to go into advertising. Mm-hmm. And when I graduated college, I did go into advertising. I worked for Doubleday Books for 3 or 4 years. And I was the head of the science fiction book club, and I was just doing stuff, I was having a good time. And in 1977, they said, we're going to fly you out to L.A. Because they were doing a movie edition tie-in with Star Wars, which I hadn't seen and nobody had seen. So I flew out to L.A. on 20th Century Fox's dime. They put me up. They shipped the models. Didn't show me a frame of film from the picture, but I came back and I was in love with L.A. I just said, wow, hot chicks, lots of money, and it doesn't get cold. Okay,
right.
So in '77, right after Star Wars opened, I saw it and I said, wow, this is a great film. I said, I'm gonna pack it in. And I left Science Fiction Book Club and Doubleday, and I traveled to L.A., hoping I'd get a job. But I did not get a job that I wanted. I got a job, menial job in Hollywood, carrying film cans around, which is not an ideal job, but somebody's got to do it.
And connection.
And yeah, well, I worked my way up over the years between 77 and 80. I worked for a bunch of different people, and I worked my way up to a point where I was, making a little money, but I hadn't written anything yet, and I hadn't directed anything yet. So in 1980, I think it was 80, I got a job with 20th Century Fox. I was a location manager for a long forgotten series called Breaking Away with Sean Cassidy.
Yeah.
And they were filming it in Atlanta or Savannah, Georgia. And so they flew me down there, and I had a great time. But coincidentally, with my arrival there, somebody started making obscene phone calls to the sorority girls on the campus. And Fox thought it was me. And it wasn't. I'd take credit for it if I had done it, but I didn't.
Well, Mr. Wynorski, hold on. Really, why did they think it was you?
Because I was the only new person on campus.
Okay.
I was the only new person on campus. Suddenly, with my arrival, someone started making obscene phone calls to all these sorority houses. And they had no proof it was me, but the producer of the show, who happened to be this old, classically trained guy, his name was Herbert Leonard, and he had produced shows like Rin Tin Tin and Route 66, and he went back to the old serials. And I had a fondness for working with him because he was a good guy.
Uh-huh.
And he said, and he called me into his office, which was at that hotel we were staying at. He says, I gotta let you go. Fox wants me to let you go. And I said, oh man. He said, I know it's not you, but I gotta do it. And I won't bring it back to Hollywood. No one's ever gonna know. And I said, oh, hopefully,
Uh-huh.
And he gave me 2 weeks severance pay, and he put me on a plane first class back to LA. And in the first class cabin, I was telling this story to a nice lady who was there. And she says, my husband knows Roger Corman. I could probably get you a meeting with him next week. And I was like flabbergasted. I said, I would love that. So when I landed in LA, this lady was true to her word, and she got me a meeting with Roger Corman the following week. And when I walked into his office, he saw my advertising work for AA Science Fiction Book Club, which was kind of right up his alley. And he had just lost his publicity guy, so I was hired at a great salary. And I started the following day. And I went downstairs, got drunk in a bar. And once I had Corman's ear, I was starting to write. I wrote scripts for him. I wrote Forbidden World, Sorceress, Screwballs, and then I got a chance to direct Lost Empire.
Right.
And I took it from there.
And the rest is history. It's extremely fortuitous, though. I mean, what are the odds?
Yeah, if I had not been fired,
right,
I wouldn't have been on that plane. And it just proved to me that success is not all talent. It's a matter of talent and being in the right place at the right time.
At the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Well, you have such a long filmography, and we're going to get to it in a few minutes. I'm curious.
Oh, my God. It's going to take you fucking 5 hours.
Man, we won't go through them all. You are doing us
all right.
solid, and we are huge fans. But I'm curious, have you always, because you have different films throughout your career, which is fantastic, but was horror always the one that you wanted to make?
No. I like doing every genre.
Right.
Yeah.
I like
pretty much covered
because
that
if you stay with horror, you get jaded by it.
Right. I mean, you've even done.
So I never felt.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I never felt like I had to do a horror film. I did a bunch of them, but I didn't. They're different. If you look at them,
mm-hmm.
most of them are quite different from normal horror films.
Right.
Like, for instance, I wouldn't consider Chopping Mall a horror film.
Well,
no, I don't think it is. I think that is it's kind of your take on the society at the time, that mall culture. Honestly, because I'd actually just finished watching it when we called you the first time. I was actually revisiting it, and man, it's still an entertaining film to this day. And the robots are still amazing. Even though, like I said,
they were really cool.
Yeah, they were.
And what I think is funny about Chopping Mall too is the fact that I've seen several rankings of, how the posters at that time, and that robot on the poster doesn't fit the robot that's actually in the movie. And personally, I think the robots in the movie are cooler than the one that's on the poster.
Well, the one there's like 3 posters for that film.
Oh,
there's the one that says Killbots.
Yep.
And that's got the robot right in the foreground. Okay. And then there's Chopping Mall, which is the one that was done by Corman's office, and then there was another one done by Vestron, and for their subsidiary Lightning Video.
Oh,
so
okay.
There was 3. There was 3 different posters.
Oh. See, the one I'm familiar with is
plus a lot of great foreign art. A lot of foreign art.
Right. Yeah. James is holding up the poster right now so that we can see all of them as we're going through.
So, can you talk to me about about making that movie? Because that was your I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was your second movie after Lost Empire, if I'm not mistaken.
It was the first movie after Lost Empire.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I meant. Your second movie after. Your first movie after Lost Empire.
It was my second movie in total.
Right.
I'd done Lost Empire, and then I got a chance because Vestron called Julie Corman, Roger's wife,
right,
and said, we want a film about a killer in a mall. And she said to me, and I know you just directed something. If you write a good story, I'll let you direct it. So I said, okay. And I did not want to write it.
They were talking like an actual killer, like guy with a butcher knife. So how did you spin it to?
Well, I knew there'd been a film called Phantom of the Mall already.
Yeah.
Okay? And I didn't want to do Phantom of the Mall, again. So I said I want to take mall culture as it existed then,
mm-hmm.
and do a little satire on it. And so I ripped off a film from the 50s that I used to love, called GOG, Gog. I don't know, you're probably too young to remember it, but there was a movie called Gog in the 50s.
We're familiar with
produced
it.
by Ivan Tors,
mm-hmm.
and it was about a scientific complex in Arizona that was like 7 levels below the Earth. And it was all run by a supercomputer, and they had these 2 robots that looked very similar to my robots, except they were a little bit clunkier. and the Russian spaceship overhead gets control of the computer and uses these robots to, wipe out people in the complex. And I said to my writing partner, Steve Mitchell, I said, let's just take that and make it a mall. Go up 3 floors instead of down 7, and add another robot and make them 3 security robots, 1 for each floor. And we sent the treatment to Vestron, and they loved it. And they said, go ahead with this. And so Steve and I wrote that in about a month. And we had a lot of fun writing it.
So when you're working on your process, because you've written, you've produced, you've worked on all sides of it, is there a specific part that you enjoy? Do you just enjoy the directing? Do you enjoy the writing? Which is your favorite part? I'm curious.
I have no favorite part.
Really?
I enjoy writing because that's creating it out of nothing.
Yes.
And then I enjoy finding the way to do it, then, which is pre-production, and then doing it. It's the most difficult part, but it's a lot of fun if you're creating exactly what you had in mind. You're actually creating it for real. And then post is another place where it all comes together, and where the music is added, the effects are added, opticals are done, So, and then the final thing is when you mix it and it all comes together, and then that one night when you take it out to some theater where nobody is there, and show it to some people.
Right.
Now, when we showed Killbots to some people in Arizona one evening, nobody showed up.
Really?
Nobody. Handful of people showed up, and they sat there and watched it, but nobody showed up. And we tried it again the following weekend, and nobody showed up again. This was in Phoenix, I think. And Roger said, well, this film's got everything we need, but nobody's coming in. And he says, let's go screen it again. And we went to the screening room and watched it again. And while we're in the screening room, there's a guy changing light bulbs in the screening room in the dark. And he's there while we're screening the movie. And then the lights come up, and Roger says, well, I don't know what we can do to this to make it different. And can we call it something else? And then the guy that was changing light bulbs turns around and he says, why don't you just call it Chopping Mall? And then Roger looked at me and he said, where half off is just the beginning. And then I said, where shopping costs you an arm and a leg. And he said, go make that poster. So we made the poster. It took me about another 2 weeks to get some artwork done and get new posters. And we cut a new trailer. And we premiered it in Arizona again. I forgot where, but, Tempe or someplace like that, and we packed the house, and everybody enjoyed it and clapped and had a great time.
Right.
And it proved to me that titles mean a lot, and conceptualizing your movie means a lot.
Right.
If you don't have a good concept that the audience perceives, then you got a dead movie. So now there were posters called Killbots. We threw them all out, except I think I kept 100 of them. And then we made a Chopping Mall, and that did very well theatrically. And then Vestron loved it, and they put it out in video stores in, I think, 85 or 86. And it went through the roof. It was in every video store possible across this country. And so it was quite a hit. And it's become more and more of a cult hit over the years.
Yeah.
Oh, we've talked to Barbara Crampton about it. We've talked to many, many others. It endures through the decades.
I think people, it was a slasher movie where the kids just don't run.
Right.
They say, okay, we're going to fight back. And they get guns and they get all their weapons, and they try hard to get the robots. And so it's a fight back, and they're stuck in an environment that was familiar to every kid in the world back in the 80s, and still has a resonance today.
So I do have a question about filmmaking because, and I'm going to bounce off with Joe's question, because I am kind of curious, because like I said, you have made movies nonstop for over 4 decades at this point. And
holy shit.
But that's a fantastic thing, sir. That is a hell of a legacy.
And the big thing is, in that time frame, the way films are made has changed drastically. And I was kind of curious about your take on that aspect of it, and how you've managed to.
Let me tell you. Films things have changed, of course. Film's gone, digital's in, all this other stuff, but films have not changed at all in terms of the way you construct them.
Right.
You've got to make a good film to be successful. You got to make a good film. You got to appease an audience, and you got to have good characters, and you got to have a great story. And if you don't have a great characters and a good story, then I don't care how much technology you have, it still stinks. I mean, I can look at Justice League.
That's a perfect example.
God.
Yeah.
Come on. They had millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they still fucked it up.
It's kind of funny.
Come on.
You were it's very funny that you bring that up, because just prior, when you were talking about, the fact that the title makes the movie or helps make the movie, and we saw that this year, how wrong that can go when the Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of the one Harley Quinn. I still think I got that title wrong, but that title alone killed that movie.
I didn't want to see that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to see that. That looked so bad. It was so fucking bad.
What kills me is it got so many good reviews, and it just tanked.
Yeah,
and a lot of it says it's because of the title.
Audience perception, my friend.
Yeah.
Audience perception.
Right.
If the audience doesn't perceive it as something they want to see, they're not going to go. Look at that fucking Harrison Ford movie.
Oh, The Call of the Wild. Yeah.
Come on. You don't make a dog movie with a CGI dog. You just don't.
Yeah.
Everything's got to be CGI. You can't just have a CGI dog.
Well, the issue is go ahead.
I'm just saying that movie tanked. And it deservedly so.
I personally didn't want to see
it. Well, you didn't want to see it,
because I was forced to read it in
the last Terminator movie. The last Terminator movie, they kill off the main guy from the rest of the story in the first little part of the movie, and then you're stuck with some chick that you don't know what you don't know, and what's all that about? They were making. I thought they were making that up as they went along.
Right. So there is a ton of questions I could ask you about every your movie, and like I said, we could be here forever, and I don't want to do that. I would like to ask you. There's two people, and we each have some people we want to ask you about, but the two that I'm hoping that not every one of them you get asked about.
I fucked her.
No, I really am not going to ask that. Although, by the way,
I'm not going to answer because I'm not going to answer it.
Usually, what we do when we open these up, because the stuff is differently, is I do a lot of cons, I do a lot of moderating in these panels, and I always have the same two questions: what do you want to talk about, and what do you don't want to talk about? And you're going to find this funny because you're a man of a certain age. A few years ago, oh shit, Chad, who is the $1 Million Man? Lee Majors did not want to talk about ex-wives unless it was fair, so you might find that slightly funny. Anyway, right before we got on stage, you worked with Howard Morris, and Howard Morris is one of the best character actors. Not only was he a director of television, and people probably don't even know that, but he's one of the best character actors ever. Can you just talk about a little bit about working with Howard Morris and maybe a story or two, if you have one? If you don't, I understand.
I hired Howard on this movie called Transylvania Twist.
Yeah, I know.
And I knew of his reputation. I knew that he had directed some of my favorite episodes of the Andy Griffith Show.
Me as well.
And so when he was on set, I was just going to town, just asking him about this, about that.
Fanboy.
I said, just give me the old professor, okay? And he gave me the old professor in spades, and he was a great guy. When we had our rap party, which was the night of our rap, we had a big party at the studio. I never wanted that film to end. It was just so many great character actors.
Well, you had Angus Scrimm, you had Robert Vaughn. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
Steve Franken.
Yeah.
Arthur Roberts, Clement von Frankenstein. I had everybody.
You did.
Everybody that I could just corral. And they were all so with it because I was making a wacky comedy.
Right.
And so yeah, it was a lot of fun to make that movie.
I can imagine.
And Howard was a charm. He was a charm. I loved working with him.
Yeah. I mean, I know probably most of our audience is going to remember him as Ernest T. Bass, but just so people know, that's not where it ended. I mean, not only was he a great voice actor, he did a lot of voice work for animation over the years, but he was a director. And I don't think people even know that today, or most folks.
Oh, I knew it when I hired him. I said, this guy directed some of my favorite episodes of, like,
Agreed.
I think he also directed a bunch of Dick Van Dykes that were great.
That's absolutely correct. Sorry. So go ahead.
All right. So that's Howard Morris. He's a good guy. I'm sorry he passed away.
Yeah, no, I know. We're just going back and forth because we have about 3 more. But go ahead.
Well, I am a fan of a certain author that dedicated a book to you called Troublemakers.
Harlan Ellison?
Yes, I was wondering how you encountered Harlan, and because he refers to you, I believe, in the dedication as his long-term partner in crime.
It's true. I met him. I met him when we were both young. He was at a convention, and he was doing something wrong in a hallway, and I helped him.
Are you going to tell?
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say what it was, but he was doing something, illegally wrong. And and I helped him, and then there was a point where we were going down, and I didn't know who he was. I just helped him.
You just wanted to help him,
and then the following day at the convention, I was going down an elevator, and he was in the elevator, and I gave him a nod, and he took a pen out of my pocket, cleaned his pipe with the pen, and I let it go. And over the years, I became very good friends with him. He helped me when I first came out to L.A., got me with one of his agents, which didn't work out. But that's not his fault. And we were both fans of Ennio Morricone.
Right.
I got him into liking Ennio. And he would write to Ennio. And so when something came out that I liked, I would always advise him. And he would always call me and say, do you have this or that? And I would say, usually I say yes, and I would make him a tape or a CDR. So that's how I knew Harlan. He was a good guy.
He was. He hit one of us with a mirror once, and he told me to go fuck myself. So we actually all have Harlan stories.
Those are great stories.
He was like that, but I'm like that.
Yeah, no,
I'm being nice tonight.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it. But and because we admire you, but we also admire Ellison. He was very sweet to us later on afterwards. But yes, Harlan was a treat. He was his own curmudgeon. He was his own person. There will never literally.
I spent a lot of fun time up at his. A lot of fun time up at his house.
Yeah.
I don't know who owns it now, but it's probably his wife or whatever.
Yeah, I believe it's Susan. Susan is still there. So, yeah.
Well, good. That's good.
So, for me, myself, I do want to talk about, and this is what inspired me to contact you. Is I got on Amazon Prime and I found the movie, and I messaged you about this. This is true. I found the movie that was pretty much what spawned my love of comics, and the titular character that is in this movie, Return of Swamp Thing. And I watched it again. I was like, I was kind of timid to watch it because of the fact that I loved it so much as a kid. I watched it over and over and over again. I wore out the VHS copy that I had. I watched it so much. And if it still doesn't hold up to this day,
I'm sorry, Chad. You paused. Go ahead.
I was just saying I couldn't stop watching that. I just could not stop watching it, and it was bringing back so many amazing memories of my childhood watching that movie. And I just kind of wanted to hear you talk about it and how you got to actually make Swamp Thing. And
they
the fact
called
that
me, and I
can you
said
also
yes.
hear me? Everybody's paused.
Okay.
Right.
They called me, and I said yes. And we went down and filmed it in Georgia.
I'm sorry, everything froze up.
What?
I had some connectivity issues. I had to switch devices.
All right, are you ready to hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Go for it.
Yeah, well, they called me, asked me if I wanted to direct it. I said yes. Came to a nice financial deal, and I was off to Georgia. And I cast most of the film in Georgia. Some of it here. Heather was obtained here, of course, as well as Joey Segal and Louis Jourdan, who I hate. And I brought my current girlfriend, Monique Gabrielle, to the set to play Miss Poinsettia.
Yeah.
And I also lobbied for Sarah Douglas because I had met her at a party and I thought she was hot, and I said she could play Louis' love interest or Arcane's love interest. So altogether, I brought in, a lot of, and then we went to Georgia and we cast those two kids, and we got some stunt people from, Hollywood come out.
Right.
And it was a long shoot. It was like 5 weeks in the summer when it was fucking hot. In Georgia, we shot that in Savannah, Georgia, and it was hot, and there was gators, and there was everything. So we had to, put barbed wire in the water so that you could go in the water without getting eaten by a crocodile. And we had guys with guns on rocks ready to try to shoot any gator that tried to get through the barbed wire. So it was a lot of fun to get in that water at night. and you'd bump into a log or something underneath the water, and you'd jump 8 feet out of the water just because you didn't know what you hit.
Well,
but it was great.
You could
the script was all. I rewrote the script with another actor friend of mine, John Terleski, who was uncredited, and he wasn't in the movie, but he was in Shopping Mall and Deathstalker 2, and he'd been in a couple of other movies. But when we were here in L.A., he and I rewrote that script. We added all the kid stuff. The two kids, all the scenes with the two kids were added after I came on board. So, and I thought some of that kid stuff was the best stuff in the movie.
Oh, it is. It's honestly, for me, it's what makes the movie. The comedic timing of those two kids and the lines delivered. I was sitting here laughing the other day on the couch, and that immediately after that movie was over, that's when I looked you up and said, I want to see if I can get him on the show. But and Return to Swamp Thing is one of those rare instances where the sequel is completely different than the original movie. Like the original movie.
Yeah, well, the original movie, I got to give Wes Craven credit. He got the first one done.
Right.
Yeah.
And he did it with much more serious than I gave it. I gave it the way I felt Swamp Thing should be. And
it
so I threw a lot of humor.
Yeah.
I threw a lot of humor at it, and I told them, I said, we can't use that old costume. Throw it in the garbage. And they did, thankfully.
Yeah.
And they brought in some new guy to do it, and they did a great job. I was very pleased with the costume. And
I was going to say the costume's amazing. And honestly, the movie poster doesn't actually show off that costume, in my opinion.
Well, it's Harvey Weinstein, for crying out fucking loud. Come on.
Well,
he designed that crappy poster. Come on.
Yeah. Did you read any of the comics before you did the movie?
Comments?
The comics.
The comic books.
from Swamp Thing.
Oh yeah, I used to read the comics. Yeah.
Okay, good. I was interested.
In fact, I went and bought like issues 1 through 40.
Okay.
Again, and I ripped them up, ripped the covers up to make the opening credits.
Right.
Yeah, that opening credits actually that opening credits is actually what introduced me to Creedence. So thank you for that too.
Oh, there you go. That was when they got that. I think they paid $10,000 for that song. It was well worth it.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that movie did 3 things for me. It made me love Swamp Thing. It made me enjoy Creedence, and the lifelong crush on Heather Locklear. So thank you for all 3 of those.
All right. Well, she was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
She was a total sweetheart. And I had a great time working with her. The cops in the town loved her. They would take her out joyriding in their police cars. And I went along a couple times. I mean, I was there with Monique Gabriel, who's no slouch.
Right.
And Heather was there with Tommy Lee. So we were going out at night, getting drunk, and doing everything we could possibly do to get arrested. But we weren't, because we were Heather Locklear and team. So there you go.
Awesome.
Well, let's talk about a little bit about that. How has the culture changed in Hollywood since the 80s till now? Because you were doing a lot of these movies and like you said, Heather Locklear was dating Tommy Lee. So you had access to so much. How has your life changed in the last 30 or 40 years as far as the way Hollywood is?
New faces, that's it.
Really?
New faces. Yeah.
The party hasn't changed that much, especially after Me Too?
No, not really. Not really. I mean, I still go out. I'm still hanging out with hotties, Why not?
No, absolutely.
I'm here.
I completely agree with you. Okay.
And, I got a couple of movies lined up for when this Corona thing ends, and, I'll just keep going.
So I got to talk about your work in special effects, because, again, Swamp Thing itself, the costumes and then the monsters in that movie, absolutely loved them. The robots in Chopping Mall, and then Deathstalker, and I could go on and on and on. So, and you've done some pretty innovative stuff with special effects. So, what is your appeal in bringing special effects to a movie and using them in storytelling?
If it helps the movie, great. And if I can get it done cheap enough, great. But I'm not a big CGI fan anymore, although I've made a few CGI movies. I could live without ever doing another one.
Really?
So, yeah, I don't like it. I think it's been done. I just watched the trailer for fucking King Kong versus Godzilla.
Right.
New sort of it looks awful. It's another destroyed city, and CGI monsters. And I just said, been there, done that. And so I'm looking for the next big thing.
Yeah, see, one of my favorite movies in the last few years is, and I don't know if you've seen it. It's a movie called Dave Made a Maze. Have you seen this movie?
No.
So it is all done with practical effects. It's about this man who's trapped in a cardboard maze that he created, and these people have to go in and get him, and it's a lot larger than it appears on the outside. And there's tons of like creatures that are made of cardboard. They actually have a cardboard minotaur. And it was all made with practical effects. And in terms for me, practical effects is way more appealing to me than the computer generated stuff that you see today, especially if you watch a movie like that and see what can be done with it. It's phenomenal. And just like movies with Swamp Thing and Chopping Mall and stuff like that, you miss that now.
I started work before CGI. And so I did a bunch of movies that don't have CGI. But, you know, I still had optical effects. And I don't mind optical effects. I don't mind CGI if it works for the movie. But I'm feeling kind of like I can't outdo what Hollywood can do, because they can throw money at a project like Justice League. They can throw money at it all day long, and it still stinks. And so I'm not a big CGI fan unless I can, you know, use it to my good advantage. In the last couple of years, I changed tactics and started making family movies, because that's what the public wanted. And so, you know, you can make a horror film these days, but it ends up in a 10-pack in Walmart in a barrel. Okay?
Right.
And nobody wants to be with 10 other films in a $5 DVD package in Walmart in a barrel. And I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I started making family films, because that's what I looked at the market, and I said, well, what's still selling? DVDs are almost dead. But the only DVDs that are not dead are family movies. They're still sold in a lot of these, you know, Walmart, Best Buys, et cetera, because kids need babysitters, and babysitter family films are popular. And so I started making my little, you know, doggone movies. And,
so
they've been very fun. Yes?
You've done a Doggone Christmas. You've done the other Doggone films. I'm curious how you approach a family movie opposed to a science fiction film, whether that be, you know, the busty co-eds versus lusty cheerleaders, or
it's story.
It's all about the story.
Yeah.
Right.
My Doggone movies, which I'm sure none of you have seen, are aimed at kids, but I throw in a lot of adult humor.
Right.
A lot of adult humor that will play well with their parents. And it's not you know, salacious or anything like that, but it's like watching a Warner Brothers cartoon, where, you know, the kids can enjoy it on one level and the adults can enjoy it on another. So that's why I attribute my success with those 3 Doggone movies. And I made a movie called Nessie and Me about the Loch Ness Monster.
Right.
Quite, and Redbox bought that for a lot of money. So I was happy. I said, okay, I'm still selling, so that's good. I got a couple of horror things coming up after COVID, and, you know, we'll see what happens.
Okay. So,
but, you know,
I'm sorry.
Right, go ahead.
I'm sorry, James. I thought James was about to say something.
No, go ahead. Change the subject. I don't care.
Well, I'm curious because we were friends.
Yeah, I fucked her. Okay.
I'm laughing my ass off. I want to ask those questions, but I'm not going to. I'm trying to actually be as nice.
I do it every about 15 minutes, so people can, you know, listen up. Okay.
Let's talk about something that you and I both love, because I know I followed you on Facebook. Used cars.
Big fucking tits, right?
Yep. Let's blow the shit out of them. Let's blow the shit out of high prices. Used cars. Okay, well, you've posted a lot of quotes and things from used cars over and it's one of those movies that I introduce people to that they don't know, and you've posted a lot about it, and I just wanted to ask you if you loved it I'm assuming you loved it as much as I did.
It's one of the funniest films ever made.
Correct.
Yep. And it's one of the films I wish I had made.
Right.
Okay. And Zemeckis did an incredible job with it. Okay.
Yep.
And he's never done better.
Agreed.
He's never done anything better. That movie just wipes you out. And I remember seeing that movie in a screening before it came out, and I was howling. I was sitting right behind Dick Miller. Okay?
Yeah, we know who Dick Miller is.
He's in Chopping Mall.
Yep.
Yeah, well, he's in Used Cars.
Oh yeah.
And Garrett Graham is in Used Cars. I worked with him a couple of times.
Yeah.
He's
anyway,
the guy on top
Used
of the
Cars is a big. Used Cars is a big. You know, I'm a big fan of that movie.
I am too, sir. I actually have the one sheet. It's in my basement. I collect one sheet movie posters for many, many years. And
no, really, I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. Go ahead and make all the smart ass comments. They're all true in my basement. But I have had sex with a woman. I actually have a toddler, so we're going with that. Well, she says he's mine.
You fucked her. That's good. That's good.
Well, she says he's mine, so we haven't got the DNA back. So, but anyway, making a joke to my wife is going to be pissed when she never listens to these things. That's okay anyway.
Do they ever? Come on.
So
you could admit to fucking 10 other women, and if it's on a podcast, they're not going to listen.
Oh,
okay?
Of course not. Of course
these
not.
Are strictly these play only in basements. Okay.
Right. But why did you not?
I'm home. I'm forced to be home today, so I'm talking my ass off here. But no one's going to hear this except a bunch of guys in basements.
Well, we have a few women that follow us, if it makes you feel better. There are a few women who do follow us. But I do have another question, and it's going to be, why did you not jump to Hollywood? Because don't give me about the lack of opportunity. I think you have plenty of opportunity. Is it just about the
Why
control?
didn't I what?
Why did you not move on to big budget films? Is it the lack of control that you didn't want to give up? Because I think you had plenty of opportunity to do that.
Nobody ever asked.
Really? I have a hard time believing that, sir. Because you had a really good career in the 80s. And I was wondering, and because some of those films were so successful, I would imagine they would have come calling one after another.
Nobody ever asked.
Really? Okay.
Nobody ever asked. And it's okay with me.
Yeah.
Because I made a lot of money over the course of the years. And I'm very happy with my filmography. I can look back and only wince at a couple of titles.
Are you going to tell us what those are?
Yeah, I could tell you. I was unhappy with Vampirella.
Oh.
Totally unhappy. I was forced to hire Talisa Soto, who I thought was wrong for the part. Nice lady, but still was wrong for the part. And they cheated me on effects. And they cheated me on almost everything in that film. And it was very hard to deal with. So that is one of them. Another one is a film I made, I think, in 2004 called The Thing Below, which was made in Canada. And the producers screwed me on that one, too. But, you know, for the most part, I've had a good time making movies, and I'm usually happy with the end product.
Good.
You know, some of these movies I won't watch again for a while, but if it, you know, when it comes around, I get people like you calling all the time about different titles.
Yeah.
They want me to discuss a title, and you know, I have to go back and watch it again so I can remember all the crap that happened.
Well, you've done so much. I mean, I wanted to ask earlier your best Corman story, but I felt like you'd been asked that 5,000 times. We've had the pleasure of meeting Roger, but I still feel that you had so much time with him, and I know he's a perfectionist or can be. And I was just wondering, do you want to talk about your best Corman story?
I can tell you a quick one. I was making Lost Woman, which was a remake of his movie. From the 50s. And I had asked the art department to make a doorway between one set and the other. And I said, I definitely need a door here. You know, it doesn't have to be special. It just has to be a doorway so people can walk from one set to the other. And, of course, they didn't do it. I got there the next morning ready to film, and there was no door. And I asked them, where's my door? And they said, we can't do it. And I said, oh, okay. And I went over to a fire axe that was next to one of the exit doors.
Right.
And I took the fire out, and I came back, and I started chopping away at the set. And I was angry, and I just started whacking away at the set. And I chopped the door, at least a hole in between the sets. And at one point, I turned around, and Roger was standing right behind me, and he was smiling. Okay, he was smiling because I was doing something that he probably would have done himself. Okay.
Yeah.
But I know I was destroying his set, but you should have seen how people scrambled to get me a door. They got me that door. Took them a half an hour, but they built the door where it had to be. And so that's a Roger Corman story. Another one was when I was working before I directed anything. The first time I ever directed anything was on a movie called Island of the Fishmen.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Island of the Fishmen was a film that Roger had bought, and it was an Italian monster flick set in the 1880s, based on a Jules Verne story. And he retitled it Something Waits in the Dark. And this is when I first started working for him, and I was doing all this publicity.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I kept trying to tell him that it wasn't a good title, and I didn't think it was going to do well because there was so much slasher film competition. And he says, "This is what I want. Something Waits in the Dark. Make the poster look like Humanoids from the Deep." So I did. Color poster, big nice poster, and it went out and died. Okay? Roger was very upset, and he was angry. Not at me, but angry that the film didn't do well. And he said, "Just make another poster, do something with it." And when I was a kid, I had an album of horror stories. One was about a guy turned inside out. And I said, and Scanners was big at the time, so I renamed this film Screamers.
Yep.
And you heard the story? I'll stop if you heard the story.
No, I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. No, I've not heard the story. I just know what you're talking about. Keep going, please.
Yeah, so anyway, I changed the title from Island of the Fishmen, became Screamers. Their men turned inside out, and worse, they're still alive. And I went down on a weekend to the stage where they were shooting Galaxy of Terror. And I hired my then girlfriend to run around this laboratory set that was set on a spaceship in her bra and panties being chased by an inside-out man, which was created for me by Rob Bottin on a moment's notice. Rob Bottin and Chris Wallace, I think, were there. And so we did it. We shot all this new footage of an inside-out man chasing a hot chick in a sci-fi atmosphere. And I cut it together. And I didn't use a frame footage from the movie.
Right.
It was just all new. And they tested the movie again 2 weeks later in Georgia somewhere again. And I said, well, hopefully it'll do well. Anyway, I got a call Saturday morning at 7 a.m. from Roger Corman. He says, "Jim, what did you put in that ad for that movie Screamers?" And I told him the story I just told you. He says, "Is any of that footage in the movie?" And I thought, okay, I'm fired. I said, well, no, it's not. And he said, well, we're going to have to put it in the movie. Get in your car and come down to the studio right now. And I said, am I fired? He said, absolutely not. You turn the movie from from a loser to a hit, which I did. I got people to come in the front door. Okay. Apparently, they tried to lynch the manager at a drive-in and tore speakers out somewhere in Georgia. And I went down, met with Roger. He was pleased that he had made money with a film that had 2 weeks before lost everything.
Right.
And there's a scene in the third reel where this guy is running around this pagan island into a house made of straw, looking for his girlfriend, which I think was Barbara Bach. And he's going, Sylvia, Sylvia! And he's opening doors and slamming them, looking for Sylvia. And Roger goes, there, right there. When he opens that door, we're going to cut to all your footage. So they took the minute and a half of footage that I had shot, and they made a 25 prints of it, and they hand cut it in to each third reel of the picture. And so it was actually hand spliced in. So the guy opens the door, he goes, Sylvia, and then we cut to what he supposedly sees, and it's all this footage that I shot about with the girl being turned inside out. Then he slams the door and moves on, as if, yeah, that's that. She's not in there. So anyway, it was the first time I yelled action and cut.
That's awesome.
And,
amazing.
And it got me going, got me thinking, got me a little hot.
For our viewers, Rob Bottin, and I think most of them should know, did the special effects for The Thing, The Howling, and Chris Wallace was
with the fame.
Right, for the Gremlins, and he made the Gremlins in the original Gremlins film. So I just wanted to make sure our viewers knew who these people were.
Well, I had worked with Rob in 1979 on a TV pilot.
Which pilot?
This is before he was famous.
Yeah, which pilot?
It was at Herbert B. Leonard again. Before I went on my trip to Georgia for Breaking Away, he produced a sci-fi pilot called Starstruck. Okay, and I kept telling him repeatedly not to do it. Repeatedly, I said, "Don't make this. It's a Star Wars ripoff, and will not sell." And he said, he's going to make it. He's going to make it. And it died horribly. But I brought in people like Chris Wallace and Rob Bottin to do all the masks and the robot suits and everything else. And so I knew them. And so when I was desperate for a man inside out, I called them, and they came down and showed up on a Saturday or Sunday, I don't remember which, and they made an inside out man for me.
So
and of course James Cameron had designed all the spaceship set. So it looked pretty good.
It did. So how did you do you talk to and this isn't because I know that Rob has kind of disappeared in the last few years. Do you still keep contact?
I haven't seen him in 20 years.
Yeah, he's kind of disappeared. I guess he made some money in real estate, and he doesn't really do interviews or talks about anything anymore. Chris Wallace is still around, still working, but Rob Bottin's kind of disappeared.
Well, yeah, he was a quiet guy to begin with, so.
Okay.
But he was a very nice guy. We got along very well.
Yeah. Well, he definitely influenced, generations of people making effects.
Yep, he was very good at it. Yeah. And I loved working with him. By the way, you can see Starstruck on YouTube.
Oh, really?
I need to check it out. I will be checking it out.
Absolutely.
A friend of mine who worked on the show kept a 3/4-inch tape of the pilot. And I don't know, about 3 or 4 years ago, he put it on YouTube.
I have to check that out. I've got to see it. That's cool.
Flip Starstruck. You'll find it.
You mentioned remaking Roger Corman's Wasp Woman. Has there ever been any conversations about anybody remaking something that you did? Any conversations about a remake of Chopping Mall, anything like that?
Yeah, I own part. I own a piece of it. So if they want to make a piece of Shopping Mall, I'm open to taking in $1 million. Okay, other than that, they can go fuck themselves. Okay, because people have come and said they were going to remake Shopping Mall, but it ain't going to be made without me getting a little back end.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you have the
and
same?
Front end.
Right. John Carpenter has kind of the same, maybe the philosophy about it that you do, obviously, is that it's fine if they do remakes. He loves it because he gets a check for doing nothing.
That's it. Well, here the bottom line is, you can't remake Chopping Mall.
Right.
You can't. You can try. Some guy wanted to make it with ghosts, and he was advertising it. I put a stop to that instantly.
So, do you think you could update it, or is it just an idea that it was of its time because malls aren't exactly?
I'm working on an update right now.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Well, good for you.
I'm using 24 as my guideline.
Oh, okay. That sounds interesting.
Imagine this, okay?
Uh-huh.
The clock starts ticking at 7 p.m.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
On the evening where they're going to reintroduce robots to the mall.
Uh-huh.
And Kelly Maroney and Tony O'Dell are there to protest.
Uh-huh.
And the doors don't open till 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
So between and my show, which is Chopping Mall the series, it's 12 episodes going from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. With the doors being locked up. With the doors being locked up at 9 p.m.
Have you pitched it to Kelly?
Yes. Tony, I've talked to Kelly and Tony about it.
The reason I ask is that we have Kelly scheduled in June. So I want to ask her about it when I have her on the show, but I didn't want to ask without your permission.
Well, you can ask her about it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to shoot a promo for it, but COVID came along.
Yeah.
COVID's kind of ruined a lot of our lives, so we completely understand that. We had Robert Kurtzman. He's famous for K&B Effects. I'm assuming you know who he is. A few weeks ago, and
yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's just shut. It's just shut down. Everything is just shut the fuck down. So it's tough for everybody.
I'm sitting. That's why I'm sitting here by the pool, kicking back,
but
drinking a little wine.
I was about to ask you, because I've been drinking Kentucky bourbon while we've been talking about this. Only difference between you and I, sir, is that you're in sunny California and I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, and it's not so sunny. But I do have the bourbon, but you have the pool, so you won at this game of life.
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
So there you go.
Yeah, Chad.
All right, gentlemen, we got 8 minutes.
Yep. All right, we'll finish right up. Chad, you have one more question?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. I'm going to do one of those "What's it like to work with?" questions, because I noticed in your recent filmography, you've been casting Michael Madsen in a lot of your projects. So,
yeah,
and he has a history, and I was just kind of curious. What's it like working with Michael Madsen?
I love Mike. He's an ornery son of a bitch. But
yeah, we can see that.
He knows his line. He's if you fuck around, he gets irritable. Okay? But when you yell action, he gives you 110%. Okay, 110. And if he likes you, and I know I get along with him well. I've done 4 movies with him.
Right.
He'll just call you out of the blue and just chat you up. And so Mike's a great guy. I have nothing but great stuff to say about Mike.
That's awesome.
So before we go,
most of the actors I worked with, most of them are great. I worked with some classics over the years. Okay, right. And there's only a small, one hand. I can count on one hand the creeps.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Louis
Jourdan Swamp Thing. Awful guy. I hate to speak ill of the dead, but he was a creep.
Right.
From a long line of French creeps. Okay?
Yep.
And who else? Tanya Roberts. Made one film with her. That was it. I'll never do another film with Tanya.
Yep.
And who else do I hate?
Don't say Heather Locklear. I mean, not Heather Locklear. Don't say Morgan Fairchild.
Morgan Fairchild was great. She was a sweetheart, knew in lines, gave me no problems. Okay? There's only been a couple. Who's that girl from fucking, I forgot her name. I try to block these people out of my mind. She was in Wasp Woman.
She was in which one?
Wasp Woman.
Wasp Woman. I forgot her name.
That's okay.
She was the star of Wasp Woman.
Well, I get asked a lot. I'm with you, though.
Anyway,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I get asked a lot because I do a lot of moderating for a lot of these conventions, and people will say about celebrities, and I say celebrities are like any other group of people. 90% of them are fantastic, not an issue. You ask them what you want to talk about, what you don't want to talk about, and then 10% are assholes, just like any other group of people.
Yeah, I agree. That's why, if someone rubs me the wrong way, I call it, I say, this is going to be it.
Yep.
And if I like working with them, hell, man, I'll bring them back many times.
Absolutely.
I've had Kelly Maroney in a bunch of movies. I've had Barbara Crampton's done a couple for me.
Mm-hmm.
Rocky DeMarco. I think she's done 15 or 20 of my movies.
Rocky's been a lot of your movies. Yeah, Rocky's one of those questions where did you fuck her or not, but I'm not going to ask it.
Moving right along.
I know. I'm sorry. I had to throw in one joke. Sorry, Jim. Well, before we go, tell us what's coming out or what's coming up so that we can plug it for you. We always try to do this for a guest. We always like to let our audience know what they could be looking forward to. So do you want to talk about it?
No, we could buy some movies and put some money in my pocket, okay?
Right, absolutely.
Watch Return to Swamp Thing on Amazon Prime.
Absolutely.
I don't get any money off that.
I know.
Oh, okay. Watch the Doggone movies on Tubi, okay?
Yeah, there you go. Tubi.
Okay, so Doggone movies on Tubi. I will definitely try to introduce those to my 3-year-old in the next few days.
And watch one of them. There's stuff in there you're going to like.
I will try to.
Watch Doggone Hollywood.
I'm just letting you know. It's sometimes hard for me to go, I've got to show this kid's movie to the guy who's famous for saying breasts are, and I'm going to screw it up about the special effects, about the exact quote.
Well, I'm telling you, Doggone, I make these are G-rated movies, but they're some of the stuff I put in them are right out of the shows and films you like.
Okay. And I'll be watching it with my 4-year-old who loves animal movies. So yeah, we'll be showing her that now that I know they're on Tubi.
And they are on Tubi, correct, sir?
They're on Tubi. Tubi. Excellent. They're all on Tubi. And anyway, bottom line is, it's been fun talking with you guys. And I hope you have a good podcast out of this. And,
we did. Thank you, sir.
We do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the entertainment. And we have enjoyed this quite a bit.
All right, man. Well, you have a good time tonight. And I'll catch up with you on Facebook, okay?
All right, sounds good, sir.
Bye.